Welcome to the April edition of North St. Paul Notes. I'm your host, Paul Anderson. Coming up in the next half hour, we're going to learn about the city's strategic plan with our city manager and our new strategic operations director. Stay tuned. North St. Paul Notes is straight ahead. Hello and welcome to the April edition of North St. Paul Notes. We hope this show will keep you up to date on the news and events that are of interest to the residents of North St. Paul. In our studio today is North St. Paul City Manager Jason Ziemer. Jason has been with the city just over 1.5 years and has been very busy with the organization of the city's strategic plan. Please welcome Jason Ziemer. I will welcome Jason Ziemer. Thank you for coming back on the program.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me back.
Right. I was looking at my notes, and I did find that you were last on in January of 2014. And I think, if I remember right, that was only about 5 months after you started the job as the new city manager.
Yes, I had to park in a snowbank when I got here that day. So
that's right.
A lot of snow.
It's a lot different than this year.
It is.
So, but a lot has happened. A lot of changes have happened since that time when you started. Some you initiated, and others just happen as a matter of course through the city, the life of the city. One significant addition is the strategic plan, and that's something that started. Did it start when you actually started, or was it was the beginning happening earlier than that?
No, it actually, when I started here, we started having conversations with the city council, working through budget process, and then talking to them about where they really wanted the community to go and what their vision was for the future and how we're going to get there. And so as we had some of those conversations, it seemed to make sense that, we really need to have a good direction from the city council, one, to really help staff understand of what their roles and responsibilities need to be and how the stuff that they do on a daily basis fits into where the city's going. And so it all just kind of added up to we really need to have this kind of plan that kind of sets us on this path to the future. And the other aspect is it really does provide, everybody wants transparency and accountability. And the one thing that plan does, that this plan that we put together does, is it really does help people understand. It can really kind of visualize what the council's thinking in terms of where the community's going, how we're going to get there, and kind of helps people understand opportunities where they can also get involved in that process. So last year in April, we did bring on a consultant to help us kind of at least get the juices flowing as it relates to start thinking about where all these different needs, issues in the community, some of the things that we know we need to address. And we kind of had basically 2 days. We had one evening in April, early April, and then we had a kind of a half-day Saturday session.
Those were workshop type?
Yep,
sessions?
It was workshop type sessions, and it was not just with the city council, it was with the department heads and myself, and then we also invited other staff to participate in those discussions, because again, we wanted kind of a well-rounded ideas of things that people know that we need to deal with, or other issues or concerns that are out there, and even start thinking about what are some of the things in the future that we need to start addressing. If you tend to just include a small number of people, you kind of miss out on a lot of opportunities that way, or things that you might otherwise miss. So it was a good process. The first day we just focused on what are all the things that we need to talk about, kind of grouped them into different groups, and then on that Saturday we really kind of focused on what is it that we want to accomplish, where is this going to go, and really boiling it down to some of the key elements that are in the plan.
Okay.
From that point then, staff worked with the city council and put the plan together, and that was then adopted by the city council in October of last year.
Last year, okay. So we've always had a comprehensive plan, I believe. And how is that different than the comprehensive plan? I think the comprehensive plan was supposed to be redone every 10 years or so.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Comprehensive plan really is the development plan of the community. So it deals a lot with land use, deals a lot with water supply, all those sorts of things, like where you're going to develop, what it's going to look like. Is it going to be residential or commercial, or is it industrial, or those sorts of things. So that's really more of the development piece of the community. Comprehensive plan is a very big and important document for a community. The difference is that this is more of an overarching, it touches on a variety of different areas. You know, if I know you had some questions as we met before about what are all the different core areas. We've got 6 core areas that deal with everything from communication and citizen engagement to business and economic development to neighborhoods to organizational development. So it's a little bit more broad reach, and it does incorporate elements of the comprehensive plan into that plan.
Okay. So these elements then, you mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned all of them, but let's just mention each one individually. And then I think our viewers will see an illustration of that too at this point. The first one was community engagement and communication. If you can just mention a few things about that give people an idea of what it means.
Yeah, the civic engagement, community engagement, and communication is really, you know, the 2 elements that kind of come into play are, one, better information and better engagement opportunities, better opportunities for people to be able to get involved. One of the things that we've recently accomplished with that is a brand new newsletter. That's not just putting information out there, but it's trying to make it more of a community piece that talks about here's all the things that are going on in the community, opportunities for you to get involved. And it's not just here's what the city council's been up to, or here's some things that you should know about, but really we featured an article about K&J Catering in there. So we really want it to be a community publication. So we're gonna have business, every newsletter will have a feature on a business, and there's other things going on that we really want to tell people about what's happening in the community, not just at City Hall, but how, and then let them know how there's opportunities that they can get involved or things to look forward to as a result of that. So that's just an example of that piece. And so we're also looking at other things like updating the website, having a mobile application, and then even trying to strategize on how we're going to just have better general outreach and better communication. Back in February, the mayor did the first State of the City address for the community, kind of a first opportunity, kind of get a feel for what it's going to be, maybe step back and evaluate what worked, what didn't work, to continue to do those sorts of things. The effort is, once we start doing some of these sorts of things, we need to be practiced, so we need to keep doing them. You know, doing them once or twice. You know, people may not come to the first State of the City, they may not come to the second one, but by the time you do the third and fourth one, people know that you're serious, that, oh, you're really honestly wanting to share this information with us, and then people start to realize it's a good opportunity to get information and come and get engaged in the community as well.
I know that meeting was, I don't know how it was attended, I wasn't at the meeting, but I heard good comments as a result of that meeting, so people were impressed with that. A second one is the listed in the plan is the residential character and neighborhoods.
Yeah, so one of the main emphasis of the City Council has been, you know, North St. Paul is predominantly residential. We're probably more residential than we are in any commercial and retail aspect, or even industrial for that matter. And so because of that, we have to really make a strong push to preserve our existing housing stock that we have, and really assist residents maybe that need some help to identify ways that they might be able to update their siding or other things like that. So the city's Housing and Redevelopment Authority, which is also the City Council, has been talking about some programs to put in place where we might be able to partner with like Anchor Bank or some of the other local banking institutions to be able to provide some funding, or at least for us to fill a gap maybe that, you know, a resident goes to the bank to get a loan to be able to assist with some projects that they want to do to make their house better, increase the value of their home. Maybe they can't get everything that they need, so maybe there's some opportunities that the city can participate in that way. So the emphasis really here is, number one, on preservation of the existing housing stock. Number two is also really taking a look at what are the needs of the community, what are the long-term needs. We have the Polar Ridge Senior Development that's opening up, 114 units there. That's a need within the community. But we also know that we're also missing transitional housing, so like the townhome styles, the condos that are both appealing to people, young families, young working professionals that are looking for a place to live and not really have that ownership aspect where they're having to do all the yard work and all those other things. But then even people that are maybe looking, they want to stay in North St. Paul, but it's time for them to move out of their single-family home and into something else that allow them to stay in the community and still be part of the community. So that part of the strategic plan really focuses on what are the housing needs both today as well as long-term.
Sure. Okay. Well, I think Polar Ridge helps fill that gap.
It does.
It
Yeah.
does very well, and
Right.
I understand that they're pretty well subscribed and that they've had good action there. Anyway.
Yeah. I think we had heard a number that the project was still ongoing in construction,
Sure.
and so they have 114 units, which is a mix of independent assisted living as well as memory care, and they had like 300 plus people that had expressed interest in getting more information. So that's a good sign that we're filling a need. That doesn't necessarily mean that we've completed the need that's in the community or in the area, but it's a start to be able to fill that.
Sure. Another one in the list of vision statements is the business and economic development aspect.
Yeah,
That's an important one too.
it is for North St. Paul, as I mentioned before, being mostly housing makeup. The economic development piece is going to be really important for us because essentially, community, when you like North St. Paul, that's more redevelopment oriented, and we're really going to get one shot to do this right in the next 50 years because when you build roads and you build buildings, usually they're around for a while.
Right.
And so we really need to take a strong look at really what are the types of businesses we want and need, and how we're going to attract them to the community, and what's a really good fit. The downtown is a huge, important piece of that. And I'll tie actually this topic into the transportation, which is the next one. One of the efforts that the city council has really given us some direction to is, hey, let's start taking a look at downtown, kind of the build it and they shall come scenario. Let's get downtown done. Let's redo the streets. Let's redo the sidewalks. How are we going to make this more of an engaging environment for people? Not only from the standpoint of, all the communities around us, not many have a downtown. It's the one thing that a lot of Minnesota cities really aspire to have. So it's that one trait that we have in the community that we need to figure out a better way of selling it. So what can we do now to try and inject some life into the downtown area? So let's take a look at, rather than kind of 20 or 30 years out of redoing the downtown streets, let's take a look at it now, get it done. There's a lot of interest and activity in the community, again, and we can talk about that in a minute. But one of the things as it relates to the downtown project is, what we're working on right now at the direction of the city council is, how big is the project going to be? Not just dollars and cents, but what's the project area look like? What are the impacts? Because we know that when we do this, it's going to have an impact on business. There's the car show that we have to work with on. So there's a lot of factors that go into this as we start looking at this project. But one of the things that we're actually in the process of doing is working with a citizens group that's called Revitalize Downtown North St. Paul, that's formed to really kind of lead some of the discussions. And so one of the things that we've been meeting with them is saying, the city doesn't need to be the leaders out in front leading this discussion.
Right.
We want to be participants, we want to support, we want to help facilitate, but we don't need to be the ones out there. So we're working with this group to start having some meetings, some community conversations with the business owners, with the residents, to really start focusing on what is it that people want downtown to become? What do you want it to be? How do you want it to look? What are the business needs? What are the traffic needs? What are the pedestrian needs? What are the community event and activity need opportunities that are down there? So there is a meeting that's tentatively scheduled for mid-April, and there'll be some information coming out about that, where it'll be just an informal discussion. This group is going to have, the city's going to be there to answer any questions, but this is really going to be driven by that group to start getting people to get involved and start helping provide some comments and those sorts of things. So that'll be a very big project, but we're just kind of in the beginning stages, but we also want to do the process right and start engaging people now as opposed to waiting with that too.
Have you projected any timeline as far as that project is concerned?
Well, the initial discussion was trying to do it for 2016, which was to move it up on the project list and then move the other one back a couple of years. When we start looking at it, it's a lot bigger project than what we originally thought of, because we also have to look at things like parking and other elements into this. And so we're probably looking at more of a phased approach, like 2016, for example, might be a year where we do some pre-work to get ready for the big project, and the bigger project might not start till 2017, 2018, but all that's very premature. We're not at that point yet. But it's going to take some time to, one, design it, two, to get all the information, those community conversations to really make sure that we're marching down that right road. And even when we get into the construction phase, to continue to have those ongoing meetings and discussions with the business owners, the residents, make sure we're on par for really what the expectations are and the visions are for the downtown area.
I understand that, as I recall, there was concern about the infrastructure too, that there's some sewer and water lines that
Right.
are in need of replacement.
Right. Well, North St. Paul's been around for a while.
That's right.
So the water and sewer lines and throughout most of the community have also been around for a while.
Yeah, right.
And when you start to notice that you get a lot of water main breaks and sewer main breaks, it's probably about time that those lines have to get replaced. Now, the cost of doing that citywide is huge. So it's not anything that you can do over a course of 5 years. It takes many years to do that. And once you get done, then you're starting over again.
That's right.
With doing those sorts of things. So, the one thing you mentioned that we talked about before we started here was a lot of people ask what's going on in the community. Are there actually people that are interested in developing the community? Are new businesses coming in? A couple things just to touch on. At the council meeting here on March 17th, the city council did authorize the city to enter into a pre-development agreement with a developer that's interested in doing a big project on the Commerce Park site, also known as the former bus garage site.
Right.
The city owns about 2 acres out there, so we've got kind of an exclusive agreement with them that says, we're interested in selling you the land, but it also gives them the opportunity to go out to the other neighboring property owners to try and compile the land to actually do a bigger project on the site that would be both a mix of housing, like market rate housing, apartments, as well as retail. We've got a lot of interest in the anchor block site. We've got a developer that's looking at that site. We've got some interest in the downtown, the old City Hall site. There's some interest in that right now. Okay. We've also had a church that's recently moved into downtown with, the furniture store,
Right.
And then we also now have I believe Frank, that owns the furniture store,
right.
has also agreed to sell the other part of his business, building and property, to a company that's looking to come in to bring ice cream and chocolate, kind of gluten-free, kind of a healthy sort of option. So they'll not only be manufacturing the ice cream there, but also selling it on site.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear, and I think a lot of people are interested in that, and especially noticeable is the downtown area.
Right.
So, but we don't have that much time left,
Sure.
actually, but I could mention the other things. You had talked about transportation. There are other aspects to that too, but let's move on to another one of these, and that was operations and services. So
yeah, really the biggest one underneath that is the e-commerce. We're looking to update the city's website so that we can allow people to get the information or apply for permits or licenses over the internet as opposed to having to come into City Hall. And the last one I can just touch on quick, which is organizational development, which is really kind of the key component of all this, because the idea behind that is if we have the right staff, we can recruit and retrain the right staff, get them trained. It's just going to allow us to be a better, much more high-performing organization to provide services to the community.
Okay. Well, we had talked earlier too about the fact that people are interested in what happens, what has happened in the past, and even going back into the 40s and 30s, why people will often refer to that. I imagine as when in your conversation with people that if they grew up here, they're still interested in those topics too.
Right.
What do you feel about that, or what do you think is happening that can contribute to their interest?
Well, I think the one thing that North St. Paul needs to take advantage of is I've been out, I've talked to a lot of residents, a lot of business owners. People have a real passion for the community from the yesteryears.
Sure.
And I think we need to figure out how to harness that piece of it, to take that passion to help us move into the future. We want people that are find that passion for the community, that they love the city. They've grown up here their whole life. They have these fond memories. And in many respects, the history that North St. Paul has is going to be very critical for the future.
Sure.
So we need those stories as part of our future to help tell our story as to why businesses should come here, residents should move here, people should come here for the car show or other activities that we have in the community.
Okay. Well, my interest is in the historical aspects, and it's always good to include a little bit about the history too. You mentioned when you were talking about residences before and the older housing stock that we have, and some of those residences go back to 1887 when the town was first started, and so that you know that those places have served very well, and there's always need for improvements on residences.
And there's elements that really make up a good, strong economic base for a community. History, cultural activities, and recreation parks are always kind of three things that typically come to most people's mind of why businesses locate where they do, why residents locate where they do, because today they want more than just a location. They actually want to be part of a community.
Sure.
And so those are the things that we have to keep in mind, that North St. Paul has those elements in place. That's what we're trying to accomplish with the strategic plan, is to really draw those elements out of that, and to recognize that we've got a good foundation and a good footing. Let's use that to help build for the future, and that's what we're trying to accomplish with this plan.
Right. Well, it is an ambitious project, and I'm sure we'll get back to that in another couple of years or so.
Well, it is a 5-year plan, but the idea is it's never ending. So once we start achieving certain things on the plan, we take those off and we add to it. So it's a process that is ever evolutionary. It continues to go forward.
Sure. Okay. Well, we're going to get back to you a little bit later, Jason, but for now, it's time for a short break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Debra, the city's new Strategic Operations Director.
Oh, hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hey.
Where have you been?
I lost my cat.
Oh, that's not right.
Yeah, so I made this cat magnet to try and get him back.
Cool. Does it work?
Kinda.
Nice.
Yeah, but that's not my cat. Gotta keep working on it. See ya.
See ya.
Anything's possible. Keep thinking. Get started on your own inventions or just play some games at inventnow.org.
Welcome back to North St. Paul Notes. I'm now joined by Debra, who is the city's new Strategic Operations Director. So welcome to North St. Paul, Debra.
Great, thanks, Paul.
And you've already had 3 days on the job, so I imagine you know everything there is to know about North St. Paul. Not quite?
Not quite yet.
Okay, what have you been doing since you started? It's short time.
Well, yep, I've already been able to jump in and do a ride-along with the police and with the city manager, and had a little bit of an opportunity to meet with other staff, city council already, and some community members. So been a pretty productive 3 days.
Yes, sounds like it.
Yeah.
You can only go up from this point.
Yeah.
Right? So why don't you tell us a little bit about your past history and where you were and what kind of educational experience you had. And I know that you mentioned you were from White Bear Lake, so you're not far from home now.
Yeah, I'm actually thrilled to be back in my home state of Minnesota. Most recently, I was the director of Parks and Leisure Services for the village of Bellevue. So this job gave me the opportunity to come back home to Minnesota, which was very exciting.
Okay.
I have about 14 years of municipal government experience, and my background is largely in recreation. I have a degree from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas in recreation management, and then I continued my education on in Minnesota at Augsburg College.
Okay.
And I have a master's in leadership.
Okay. So you mentioned Bellevue, and you have to tell people where that is.
Bellevue is a suburb of Green Bay.
Okay. And so I'm assuming you're a Packers fan because of that.
Oh no, that's why I had to come back for the Vikings.
Okay, that'll make a hit, I'm sure. But that must have been an interesting experience to see what living's like in Green Bay and that vicinity.
Yep, absolutely.
It's all Packers.
It is all Packers.
There's probably not much more than that, really, that for people sports-wise.
Well, a lot of outdoor recreational opportunities up in that
sure.
area,
That's
so
right, too.
that's great.
Yeah. And you said that you worked in Parks and Recreation previously. Is that something you're going to be doing in North St. Paul at all, connecting with that?
I will have the opportunity. I'm very fortunate to be able to serve as the staff liaison for the Parks and Recreation Commission. So that's something I'm very excited and looking forward to.
That'll be a good fit then.
Yep.
Jason, can you tell us a little bit more about what role you see Debra playing in in her new job?
Well, yeah, I think the title kind of speaks volumes as it relates to that. I mean, strategic operations director, and I think the one thing, cities do a really good job at planning, but a lot of times, the knock on them is they do a very poor job at follow through. So we spent time putting this strategic plan together. So, working with the city council, we're going to make a real strong emphasis to see this through, to make these sorts of things happen. And I think, the council actually approved a position similar to this back in 2013 for the 2014 budget. And as we were kind of working on the strategic plan, I kind of took a little bit more of a wait and see approach rather than just filling a position for the sake of having a body, really wanting to make sure that we've got somebody in here that can help us kind of take the city and the community to the next level. And so, you need to find the right person that has the experience but also is a good fit for the organization. We were fortunate that Debra applied, and she is that right person because she does have the experience working with strategic plans, experience implementing strategic plans, and so she's going to have a lot of work on her plate because we got the plan done now. So part of her task is going to be actually working with the staff, possibly members of the community, city council, city commissions, to really start putting together the action plans, the implementation steps, those sorts of things. So
okay, well that's a good description because I'm sure people wonder what that title means. It's a long title, so and not easy for me to say sometimes.
Yeah, right.
So,
and to keep in mind, her only duty is not that. She will also. She mentioned she'll also be the liaison to the Parks and Recreation Commission, in the Environmental Advisory Commission. So we're also fortunate that she's got those experiences that can really help those two bodies become better and continue to plan and do the stuff that they have to do. And she also will have some human resource functions helping me with some of the HR stuff like employee engagement, other sorts of things that way too. So we're excited to have her, and I know she'll be a good fit. She is a good fit within the organization, will be a good fit within the community as well.
Sure. Well, I'm sure that when you started, or when you were applying and being interviewed, Jason never mentioned the fact that 2 days after your start of the job, you were going to be on TV. Otherwise, you may not have taken it. Anyway, I hope that wouldn't happen.
No, a little bit of a surprise, but excited to be on your show.
Sure. Well, appreciate you being here, and to both of you for your appearance today. So we've been talking to Jason Ziemer, the city manager of North St. Paul, and Debra Lum, Strategic Operations Director, the new Strategic Operations Director. We're out of time on this month's show. Join us again next month when we'll bring you more news about North St. Paul. I'm Paul Anderson, speaking for everyone at the City of North St. Paul. Thank you for watching.